Welcome to another week of meal prep ideas and inspiration. I'm Lisa, and I'm going to help you be the happiest, healthiest version of yourself this year and beyond. Every week, I make healthy meal prep for myself and my husband, and this is my meal prep perspective. For breakfast this week, I made pumpkin overnight oats. For lunch, I roasted baby eggplants, butternut squash for mac and cheese, and grilled chicken. And for dinner, I made nutrient-dense beef stew with potatoes, onions, and carrots. I'll get started on my meal prep process, and don't forget to like this video and hit subscribe so you can take advantage of all the healthy meal prep ideas, tips, and tricks I share on my channel. First thing I started with this week was getting my frozen cued beef sauteing in olive oil in my Instant Pot on the saute setting. Next, I'm moving on to slicing up my little baby eggplants. How stinking cute are these? And the color was just absolutely so beautiful. It really is so fun to eat the rainbow, and literally look how adorable these are. If you're new to my channel, this might be news to you, but if you're not new to my channel, you've heard me say this a million times. Different colored foods have different nutrients. So that's one of the reasons it's so important to eat a variety of different fruits and vegetables and things that are different colors, because you're getting a variety of nutrients that way. Isn't that so fun? Specifically, these little purple eggplants are high in antioxidants and anthocyanins. Peer-reviewed research supports that anthocyanin has antimicrobial properties, can improve visual and neurological health, and protect against various non-communicable diseases. I'll link one of the scientific papers below, but isn't food science so cool? Now that these are all cut, I'll cover them in some olive oil, a little bit of salt and pepper, and into the oven they'll go. And that's why one of my favorite meal prep tips is to think about when you have all of the food laid out, like how I always start my videos, how I end them. When you're gonna lay out all of your meals, when you're planning your meals, think about having variety in color. If everything looks the exact same, everything's beige, it's not bad, but we want variety because we want different nutrients. Hold that thought for 1 second. I got the eggplant in the oven. I'm gonna add some water into my beef now that everything's sauteed. I'll get the lid on and turn on the pressure cooker. Okay, so back to nutrition. You've probably heard of macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbs, and I don't spend a ton of time teaching or focusing on the amount of these macronutrients that I eat, and I don't often recommend others do either. I do like helping people identify what is what, but sometimes if we focus on these too much and the amounts of these too much, we miss the forest for the trees. We need macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbs, but we also need micronutrients, which are vitamins and minerals. So when I say nutrient-dense meals, that's what I mean. Meals that have macro and micronutrients are really what I consider to be healthy meals. And the reality is the way I define healthy might be different than the way you define healthy. After studying public health nutrition in grad school and working with countless clients on their nutrition, I realized just how personal the definition of healthy really is. And we're gonna put a pin in that for just a second, because this trick to cutting butternut squash changed my life. Instead of trying to force the knife the way through, if you just roll the butternut squash back and forth, your knife will glide through. You are so welcome for this tip, because I feel like it changed my life, and now it'll change yours. And so we're getting really clear on how you define healthy. I think that's one of the best things you can do for yourself. It can be really easy to get caught up in the mentality and the way other people define healthy, but seriously asking yourself what matters to you and what healthy looks like will change your life. I personally like to think about healthy being in support of my health goals, which are to strength train and maintain muscle mass, have strong bones and high bone density, and to not get too stuck on focusing on body fat. It's so important to think of what you eat as something you can maintain, and that's why so many diets don't really work, because you need long-term strategies instead of short-term solutions and quick fixes. The absolute best thing you can do for yourself starts with defining healthy. Healthy might mean you need to save time, so you need quick recipes. Or maybe you're trying to really stick to a budget and not overspend on food, so you are going to prioritize buying ingredients that are on sale and your create meals around those items. Or maybe you've got a fitness goal and you want to build muscle and get toned, so you need to focus on high protein meals. Or maybe your focus is on reducing your cholesterol, so you're adding fruits, vegetables, and fiber to your diet. All that to say, don't let anyone else tell you what healthy means. All that to say, don't let anyone else tell you what healthy means, not even me. Okay, I can step down off my soapbox now. I've been deep diving into nutrition coaching as I prepare to open my in-person business in a few short weeks, and I'm just so passionate about this work. I would be so happy to continue and elaborate and talk more about these things, so comment below if you have any specific questions or things you want me to cover in my next video. I absolutely love answering these questions and helping you all, so ask away. I can't wait to discuss this with you. Alright, and back to butternut squash. I'm gonna get these olive oiled, salted, peppered, and into the oven, and I've got quite a bit of this to go through, so I will cut it up and get it into the oven as quick as I can. And my baby eggplants are all done on their first round, so I'm gonna get them flipped over and then I'll put them back into the oven to continue roasting so they're fully cooked on both sides. And back to butternut squash, so feel free to skip ahead if you want to see the next step of my process, or stick around and watch me put my new butternut squash slicing trick to use. Alright, baby eggplants are out of the oven. I definitely had to give them a try. I was so curious how they tasted since I have never had these exact ones before, and they were absolutely delish. Really is amazing what roasting a little olive oil, salt, and pepper could do, and they're all set. Now I'm getting my beef out of my Instant Pot, and I'm gonna set some aside. I made a little bit extra because this was a really large portion. It came from Costco, and I'm gonna just store some of this away in my freezer once it cools down, and then I can use it for other meals or for meals on the weekends when I don't meal prep. So I'll leave half of this in the Instant Pot, and then I'll get my other ingredients and I'll bring them over. I've got potatoes, diced tomatoes, and tomato paste. Alright, and for the record, I'm absolutely obsessed with my can opener. It's so small and compact, and if you don't have a ton of drawer space or you need a new can opener, this is the one to get. Let me know if you want the link, I'll send it to you. I'll get my tomato paste into my Instant Pot and follow with my diced tomatoes, and then I'll be ready to cut up my vegetables. Alright, now it's time to get my potatoes cut up. I'm gonna cut these into a pretty healthy, hearty dice, I guess. Maybe they're like 1-inch dice. They're pretty large cubes that I cut them into because I'm gonna cook it in my Instant Pot. It's okay with me if they're a little bit larger of pieces. If I wanted this to go a little bit faster, I would definitely cut them even smaller so they cook and they get tender even faster. Next, I'll cut up my onions. I'm gonna cut one of the onions into a little bit larger of a dice and then the other into a smaller dice. I'll also add some fresh garlic. We love onions and garlic in this household, so lots of garlic, lots of onions. I love the trick of smashing the garlic clove and then cutting it up because it really helps to release all the garlicky flavors and oils, and absolutely delish. I'll get these cut up and then we'll move on to my carrots. Alright, so now for carrots, I've got baby carrots. You can definitely use whole carrots. It's probably what I would prefer is whole carrots, but since I had baby carrots, I just used them. And I started cutting them off. I was out of frame, so apologies for that, but I definitely got distracted. I do not remember why, but I stopped cutting them up. I gave this a stir, and then I started adding in some spices. For me, this is one of those things that is really so simple that doesn't need a ton of other spices. I remember I've got lots of onion and lots of garlic, so that's already giving me tons of flavor, but I added in some salt, lots of cumin. I love cumin in this stew, and then I also added in a couple bay leaves. Alright, so now I'm going to add in the rest of my carrots and my onions, and my stew is pretty much ready to go into the Instant Pot. Alright, and look at how hearty and delicious that looks. Oh my gosh, it was so good, and I love a hearty stew in the Instant Pot. It really just makes it go so fast, it's so delicious, it makes it so tender. Win, win, win all around. And next we're moving on to breakfast. I've got a can of pumpkin puree here, and I absolutely think pumpkin does not get enough use throughout the year. Maybe that's a very like Western thought of mine. It's like using things out of season, but I love pumpkin all the time and I just wish I could find it more often. So most of the time during fall, I end up hoarding several cans, of pumpkin puree to the side because I always like to have it on hand, and it's really hard to find when it's not in season in the fall. And truly, that's why jarred things are absolutely fantastic. Like, there really is nothing like having a jar of, canned tomatoes or pumpkin puree or coconut milk in your pantry and ready to go, because you never know when you're gonna want to use it. Like when I decided I wanted to make pumpkin overnight oats, So I added in my pumpkin puree, I added in some pumpkin pie spice, which I also usually hoard away in the fall. And then I added in honey. I definitely recommend adding in a fair amount of sweetener because the pumpkin puree is definitely not, it's not sweet. I don't know why I feel like everyone always thinks pumpkin puree is gonna be like pumpkin pie, but pumpkin pie filling and pumpkin puree are not the same thing, not at all. And y'all know me, I'm not a huge measuring girl, so I just went back and forth and I added honey and then more spice and then honey and then more spice until I felt like it had a really nice palatable and delicious flavor. So no idea how much of either of those I added here to taste. And while I was talking, I also added all of the oats into my bowl, so I've got my husband's and mine all set, and I'm gonna just pour a little bit of this puree and my little pumpkin, I guess I'd call it pumpkin pie mix, add that into my containers, and then we'll be on to the next part. So I actually stepped off camera and started rinsing this out, and then I was like, wait a minute, I actually want to get all those little pumpkin things on the side there. So I had a little bit of water in there, and then I thought, you know what, why don't I just add the milk directly into here instead of pouring it into each bowl, and then we'll definitely get all the pumpkin out of this bowl. So, you know, sometimes my brain's working when I'm meal prepping, and other times I feel like it's working against me. So, you know, just doing the best we can. And if you like sweet breakfast at all, I know people sometimes are team savory or team sweet. I'm usually team both, but if you like sweet breakfast at all, overnight oats is one of the best things that you can make for breakfast that also requires not a ton of energy, which lately has been my go-to, honestly. So anyway, I'm getting all these mixed up, and then I realized they're gonna be sitting on the counter for a really long time because not everything was done yet. So I did end up putting them in the fridge for a little bit, and now I'm going over to the stovetop. I've got diced onions in my pan with some olive oil. I'll give that a stir, and then my Instant Pot is ready for the next step here. So I always am very careful to move the steam release valve so it's not like, you know, steaming underneath my cabinet. So I always spin that, and I'm gonna let that go while my onions continue to cook, and I'll also add some garlic in here. There's really nothing worse than burnt garlic, so definitely make sure your onions are cooked enough before you add your garlic in here because you do not want the garlic to spend a little too much time in there. Anyway, my squash is ready. They're out of the oven, so I'm gonna add them all together. I absolutely should have just kept the squash in some of the bigger pieces. I feel like it's so much easier to cut the skin away, but I also wanted it to roast quickly, so you know, you live and you learn. But next time I'll definitely just leave them. Even if it's going to take a little longer to roast, it'll take way less time to cut up and get the skin separated from the squash. So I worked through that pretty quickly on here. No need to bore you all with that. But we'll get this into the onion and garlic mixture into my large bowl so that I can mix everything together. And I move that to the side for a minute because my stew is ready and I really want it to cool on the counter. I start looking for my bay leaves because I don't really like to serve anything if I leave the bay leaves in there. So I found 1 and 2, and then also found another little piece of 1, so yay, done with that. And you guys have probably seen this before. I love adding literally like an entire bag of kale to a soup. It's like probably one of my signature things that I do, but just adding it slowly, stirring it, letting the heat from the stew kind of wilt down the kale. That's my favorite way to do it. I hate when it feels overcooked if it's cooked too long, which if I put it in the Instant Pot, that's usually how it feels for me. So anyway, I'm gonna get these portioned into my containers and my husband's containers, and there you go, 1 meal prep meal down. All right, so now I'm back to my squash. It's definitely cooled off, which is making it a little bit easier to peel, but still not super easy. So I spared you guys the maybe 40 minutes it took me to do that. I don't know, it took me forever, but I edited it out there, and I'm gonna add in some milk here. So I'm gonna make this into like, you know, mac and cheese style butternut squash. So also, no idea what happened to the video here of me blending that up, but I did blend up the butternut squash, those onions, the garlic, and added pasta, but again, can't find those videos. Not really sure what happened. Just gonna keep on going because we're almost done with another meal. So there we go. I'm getting that portioned out into my containers and then my husband's, and yeah, we're almost there. All right, next my husband brought in the grilled chicken. I'm gonna get that sliced and into the containers, and basically meal prepping is like, we're like done. We're at the end. And kudos to you for watching this far. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. So at this point, I got my little eggplants I roasted earlier out of the fridge because I had roasted them so long ago. I put them in the fridge and I put them on top of my butternut squash mac and cheese. And I also brought the pumpkin oats out onto the counter so I can have a beautiful photo and video for you guys of everything I made this week. So yay, that's it. Another week of delicious and nutritious meal prep. This was absolutely one of those weeks that when I finished doing this, I felt absolutely delirious, but I also know how much I appreciate it during the week to have these meals ready. Me during the week is very proud of me. And me right now is also very proud that I have this apron on because I've got schmutz all over me. And I guess that's the price we pay for delicious meals, you know? Thanks so much for watching. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you next week for healthy and delicious and nutritious meal prep to make your life just a little bit better.